Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Whole and Powerful Women group, client only group.
There we go.
Both of them work today. Fantastic. Yeah. That's great. So obviously, I think last week we only had one of them work. So now both are working. So again, what's up, client group? What's up, Whole and Powerful Women free group? I hope all of you are doing amazing today. We made a little bit of a typo on the start date of this masterclass. We had Wednesday and we switched it to Thursday. It was meant to be Thursday. We just made a little bit of an error there. So if you're tuning in right now, welcome. And if this is going to be a replay for you, welcome in the replay.
You can comment replay.
Yeah, comment replay if you're going to be.
Everyone.
Yeah, Brittany's just tagging everyone here. So if you're going to be watching the replay later, no problem. Just let us know. And if you're going to be tuning in today, that's cool as well. Today we're going to be talking about protein, all about protein.
This is
my
Masterclass.
favorite. This is my. Brittany's going to let me take the reins today. Now she'll obviously have some awesome insights as well. I love protein. I love everything about protein. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of protein. Why do we always talk about it? Why do other fitness professionals talk about it? Why is it the one macronutrient that I think all of you and everyone in general should focus on when it comes to their meals? And ultimately, what is the best source of protein in terms of quality as well, right? Like how much protein, everything to do with protein.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'll kind of get right into things here. So why is protein so important? Well, protein is so important for a variety of reasons, but the main reason that protein is so crucial is it's responsible for the growth of our muscle tissue, okay? Without protein, muscle protein synthesis is almost impossible to undergo in our bodies. And I don't want to confuse a lot of you, so I'll keep things really simple today. But if you're someone who, isn't able to eat a lot of protein, or you're someone who doesn't eat a lot of protein in general, you may find that, certain functions in the body will be more difficult, mainly muscle growth and muscle retention as well. Muscle retention meaning that if you're losing weight, like if we're all trying to lose weight, when you lose weight, some of the weight you're losing is also muscle as well. And so if you're able to increase your protein intake, which I'll explain how much I think everyone should be eating, what will help happen in this case is you'll be able to hold on to more muscle while you're losing weight. Because let's say someone loses 20 pounds, that's not all fat, that's not all water and sodium either. It's a mixture of water and sodium, it's a mixture of fat, and it's a mixture of muscle. Okay, so when someone loses weight, there's some muscle being lost in there as well. But what we want to do is we want to minimize the amount of muscle lost in a deficit. Remember, and I talked about a deficit a lot, and I'll continue to use that word, or a cut, or a weight loss phase, whatever words you want to use to describe losing weight, losing fat, etc. There will be some muscle lost in that process. And so by ensuring we're eating enough quality protein on a daily basis, we can minimize that muscle loss. Okay, we can maximize that muscle retention. Okay, so that's very important to note. So that's one of the biggest things that protein does. Another thing protein does is when we are eating more than required to stay the same weight. So if we have someone who wants to gain muscle, someone who wants to add weight to their frame. So let's use the flip side of that. Let's say someone wants to gain 20 pounds. So someone's maybe very lean, someone's maybe, they haven't worked out, they've never touched weights in their life, this is all brand new to them, and they want to put on a bunch of muscle. Well, protein is just as important for muscle growth as it is for muscle retention. Okay, so protein is just as important for muscle growth as it is for muscle retention. Okay, very important to note both of those things. And so what I mean by that on the growth side of things is if you're not eating enough protein and you're trying to build muscle, you're going to have a tough time doing so. Now, there's a lot of studies. I mean, I'm a big nerd with this stuff. There's a lot of studies out there that point towards, this is how much protein you should have, or this is how much you should have, or your kidneys will secrete that extra protein you eat and things like that. But it's good to just stick to a clean, easy rule of thumb for protein. And you've probably heard this before, but this is what I am a firm believer in. It's always been my belief. I've gone through so many protein related studies in my spare time. It's ridiculous. And I kind of combine the studies themselves with just the overall knowledge of me seeing athletes, for example, that have taken muscle growth to the extreme. What are they eating for protein intake? Okay. I will, and again, is anyone, including me, including Brittany, including any of you, are any of you trying to be, the most muscular person on the planet? Probably not. But with that being said, I am always going to use those extreme examples to prove a point because, in any single sector, apart from just fitness, we're talking about fitness, obviously, but, instruments, whatever, athletes, doesn't matter what sector you pick, you know what I mean? There's going to be extreme examples where there's someone who takes it to the extreme to try and be the best at something, right? And we can always learn from those people, okay? And so what I wanted to get at is for protein intake, 1 gram per pound of body weight, okay? 1 gram per pound of body weight is a great starting point. Now, some of you and some people in general will have a very difficult time hitting that number, okay? So for example, typically the heavier you are, the harder it is to hit that number. So let's say, I'll use a random number here. If you are, let's say you're around 300 pounds and you want to lose a little bit of weight, okay? Getting 300 grams of protein in a day will be very, very difficult for you. And so as the weight kind of increases on the scale side of things, the amount of protein required will most likely go down. And the reason being is typically someone who's around 300 pounds in this case, they will be carrying, more fat than they are muscle. And so at that point, it comes more of, eating enough protein to support your lean body mass. Okay. So I hope if I'm ever confusing any of you, please let me know. Don't be afraid to message me either. I'm here to explain anything you need help with, but I want to really dive into that because it's super important. I don't want to confuse any of you either.
I would say once you kind of hit that 200-pound mark, if you're at that 200 or over, that's kind of the max that we go, probably roughly around there for like a lifestyle plan. And then after that, it's like we're not doing 1 pound per 1 gram.
Right, unless you're like for me, I take, someone might argue that I take fitness somewhat to the extreme. I don't think I take it to like the farthest end of the extreme by any means. However,
you take your protein intake.
I take my protein. Yeah, so I think I weighed myself this morning. I think I'm 212 pounds right now. And I'm currently trying to get down to sub 200, so around 195, 200. That's my current goal. So, I was in the surplus for a while. I gained some muscle, I gained some strength, and now I'm going back. I'm in a deficit myself, and I'm trying to lose weight and get down to 200 or just under 200. Okay, my protein intake on a daily basis is around 250 grams.
But you have to remember, Dylan's obviously a male, and so we coach male and females completely differently. And so, with that 200, that's more so for obviously women clients.
Absolutely. So I'm just giving an extreme example of myself. And what I was actually going to say about that is it's hard some days for me to hit that protein intake. Yeah. If I'm not making sure that every meal I'm eating is meticulously planned, let's say I only ate once and then nighttime comes, maybe life got in the way. It's going to be almost impossible for me to get, 200 grams of protein in a sitting. That's insane. That's like 500 grams of chicken breast. Or no, that's actually, 1,000 grams of chicken breast. Yeah, that's 1,000 grams of chicken breast, 2 pounds of chicken breast cooked that I would have to eat in one sitting. That would be disgusting. The amount of, so like on nights like that, which are few and far in between, but if I'm on vacation and we spend the whole day being out and for whatever reason I wasn't able to prioritize my meals or plan them in advance because we're just out having a good time and enjoying life, there has been some times where my protein intake is just slightly under or right at my body weight. That's okay. So the studies show, and I don't want to dive too deep into this, of course, because it's not like, oh, I just discovered this magic study that I'm going to share with you all. This is just facts, and this is just what I've found out over the years, is if you're getting around, something that was like 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, like that's enough to support muscle synthesis. That's enough to support muscle protein synthesis in your body. But it's not really enough to push the lever over to that area where we're going to be growing muscle at an efficient rate or retaining muscle at an efficient rate. Okay, so let me know again if that all makes sense. Again, if I'm losing you or confusing you at any point, please just send me a message. I'll be happy to help. Okay, so I want to reiterate that all in very simplistic terms. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is more than enough. Okay, and obviously the lighter you are on the scale, like Brittany's 120 pounds right now. She's getting ready for her show, and Brittany, I would argue 120 grams of protein is pretty easy for you to hit.
I hit more than that.
You hit more than that, right?
I would for clients or people who are more so maybe on a lighter scale like that. I'm more like my goal is 150, for example, so I can hit that higher goal because I weigh less right now for sure.
Right.
But yes, 120 is very easy to hit. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's another concept to this 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight called the thermo-energetic effect of food. And what this means is it's called TEF. And so carbs, fats, and proteins, they require a certain amount of energy when we consume them to digest these macronutrients, okay? But protein requires a little bit more than carbs and fats. I really don't want to dive into this too deep because it can get really confusing.
But it's go into it like
yeah. I'll just So the whole key here is if you're eating more than enough protein for your body weight, okay? So you eat around, 1 gram per pound of body weight, even slightly over if you can is ideal. If you can go to like 1.25 grams per pound of body weight, that's even better. The reason being is because protein requires a certain amount of energy to be digested in your system. And so you lose some of the benefits of that protein because your digestive system has to use energy to digest it, okay? I don't want to get too deep into that though, because it can get really wordy. So don't worry about those things. I'm just kind of giving you guys some extra things to note. But 1 gram per pound of body weight, more than enough, okay? And now I want to kind of shift into the quality of protein because this is also very, very important. And so let's say someone is eating 150 grams of protein a day, okay? That's how much they need. Maybe they weigh around 150 pounds. Maybe they weigh 140, maybe they weigh 160 in that range. They're getting around that 1 gram per pound of body weight, okay? It's very important that most of that protein, if not all of that protein, is coming from a quality source. And so I'm going to use 2 examples here, and then I'm going to explain both of them. So let's say here comes Lexus again. As always, I feel like she knows when we're doing these now. Yeah. That's hilarious. Let's see if I can get her better in the screen here. That's funny. Everyone say hi to Lexus. Anyways, so going off of what I was just saying in regards to the quality of protein, I'll give 2 examples here. So let's say you were hitting all of your protein from just bread and peanut butter. Okay, there's one person that's hitting 150 grams of protein and all they're eating is peanut butter sandwiches, okay? Then the other person is getting 150 grams of protein from sources like chicken, fish, beef, protein shakes, things like that. Which one of those people do you think is getting the higher quality of protein? Probably the person eating the meat, right? The person eating the chicken, the fish, the beef. People that are taking in protein shakes apart from just eating things like starch carbs, which are like bread has protein in it, for example, because you're getting protein from the starch, right? And you're getting protein from the gluten as well. And so you're getting additional protein, trace proteins as they're called, from these types of foods. Same with peanut butter. Peanut butter has protein in it, but it's not a protein source. It's not a complete protein source. And so that's what I want to dive into now as well, is when you're mapping out what you're going to eat on a daily basis, okay? When you're mapping out how am I going to eat today, what's my nutrition protocol going to look like this week, if you're someone who craves variety and you're switching things up all the time, like what are you going to be eating here and what are you going to be eating there? It's important to note you should always start in your head with how can I include a high quality protein source in every single thing that I eat, okay? Very, very important. This should become a habit in your life, because once it's a habit, then it won't be hard to achieve at all. But initially it might be difficult if you're someone who like snacks a lot or someone who eats a lot of, like chips, for example, where there's like very little nutritional value. If you're used to eating foods like that, it'll be very difficult to kind of put those to the side and replace them with something that's more high quality in the form of protein, right? And so it's very important to note that a peanut butter sandwich, okay, maybe you can make one that has like 20 grams of protein. So maybe the 2 slices of bread are like 12 grams of protein, and then maybe the peanut butter you put on enough that there's 8 grams of protein and there's like 20 grams of protein in that sandwich. Obviously you can sit there and be like, I just got 20 grams of protein in a peanut butter sandwich, that's great. But that protein is not a complete source, okay? There is 1 amino acid, okay? So there's 9 essential amino acids. A complete protein has all 9 of them in it, okay? A trace protein will have 4 or 5, less than 9 of them, not all 9 of them, okay? It's very, very important for our body to get all the essential amino acids when we're consuming protein, okay? So there's one amino acid in particular called leucine. Okay, this is very, very important. Even though this is very, I'm getting very niched out here. This is very, very, very important to know. Okay, so leucine is responsible for protein synthesis in our bodies. Okay, without enough leucine on a meal-to-meal basis, our body will not have enough essential amino acids, in that case, specifically that one, to uptake that protein and actually utilize it, okay, for muscle growth, for muscle retention, things like that, okay? This is very, very important. Does that mean if you ate 150 grams of protein a day and it was all trace proteins, you wouldn't see results? No, that's not what I'm saying. However, they will not be optimal or not even close to optimal, okay? And you might start questioning certain things like, why isn't this working for me? Why am I not gaining muscle at an effective rate? Why is my strength kind of remaining, somewhat the same? Things like that. And one of the reasons can be because you're not including enough high quality protein in your nutrition. So how do you do that? Well, if you're eating 3 to 4 times a day, let's say someone's eating 3 times a day, 4 times a day, even 5 times a day, every single meal you eat should include enough high quality protein to effectively uptake this protein synthesis in our bodies, okay? And so that's 20 grams minimum. So if you can get 20 grams of protein per meal at the very least from a high quality source, you're in good shape. Even if, now I know I said 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but even if you just started the habit of having 20 to 25 to 30, we'll say 20 to 30 grams of high quality protein per meal, even just starting out that habit, it will get easier and easier for you to not only eat, but digest this amount of protein. And you'll start to notice the benefits of it. So you'll probably want to increase your intake anyways.
So that peanut butter sandwich that you were talking about, that's not a complete protein. You could have that with a whey isolate protein shake on the side. That's your protein source, not the sandwich.
So this might sound crazy to some of you, but like pizza, for example, okay? I love pizza. I think everyone loves pizza. I don't think I've ever met someone who says, I hate pizza. I don't want a slice of pizza. So the odd cheat meal, there's a couple of really good pizza places here in Calgary. I think every city has their fair share of good places. And what I will do, and this might sound crazy, but I will have a scoop of protein. Like I'll have a protein shake with my pizza, not like Brooke's laughing at me, not enjoying it with my pizza, but like what I'll do is I'll order the pizza, I'll have a scoop, I'll have a protein shake, and then the pizza will come and I'll enjoy the pizza. Why do I do that? Well, even if the pizza has meat and cheese on it, okay, which are complete protein sources, it's not like the pizza itself is the best source of protein. Like if I have 3 slices of pizza and it's like maybe 30, 40 grams of protein, yeah, I got my protein in, but was there enough to uptake that protein synthesis I talked about? Was there enough leucine? Was there enough essential amino acids? Probably not. And so I just get peace of mind by having a scoop of protein, which is,
Protein also keeps you fuller for longer. So
that's
maybe
right,
that scoop of protein stopped him. He had 4 slices as opposed to 7.
Yes, 7. Yeah, right. Brittany knows my past, my dark past of crushing whole large pizzas. No, I'm kidding. She was correct about that. So protein, and that's another benefit I was going to kind of lean into here as well. Protein, out of all 3 macronutrients, so out of protein, carbs, and fats, protein makes you feel fuller for longer, okay? It improves our satiety, our how satiated we feel, okay? Very important to note, because if you are obviously not eating enough protein, right, muscle retention and muscle growth is hindered, which I already discussed. But on top of that, protein will make you feel fuller for longer. I know for a fact that if I had 200 grams of just chicken breast right now, maybe it wouldn't taste the best as well, which is probably why I'd want to stop eating it. But I would feel a lot more full than if I had like a bowl of rice with like oil on it or something like that, right? So that's very important to note as well, is the more protein you include in your meals, chances are you'll be able to eat less calories. You'll be able to get more out of the meal because you're focusing more on protein. So
we have lots of clients who come in, and let's say I do the calculations and I set somebody at like a 1,600 calorie goal, but their protein's at 150, for example, and they're like, holy, like 1,600, that doesn't seem like a lot of calories, but then they go to eat it and they can't even eat to that amount. Whereas like you could eat 1,000 calories of chips easily.
No problem.
No problem.
And that comes down to taste as well and things like that. And like, what's that addictive taste that people crave, right? But it's true. Like, you could crack open a bag of chips, like a large bag of Doritos. I don't know how many calories are in a massive bag of Doritos, but you could just go to town, you're watching a movie, you're not even thinking about it. All of a sudden you're like, wow, like I just crushed 1,000 calories, and there was, little to no nutritional value in that, right? Yeah. And I just want to say what's up to everyone as well. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Lydia. How's it going? Hope all of you are doing awesome.
And then I wanted to touch into, that was really good, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Just like plant-based proteins, because we get that question a lot too.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a controversial topic for some, but plant-based proteins are, as far as I'm concerned, fine, as long as they're complete protein sources. So you heard me earlier talk about you want to make sure your protein source, or the ones that you're consuming the most of, include all 9 essential amino acids, meaning it's a complete protein. If you are someone who eats plant-based foods all the time, I've worked with a lot of vegans in the past as well. If you're someone who's vegan, I'm not going to take that away from you by any means. Like, I totally understand if that's what you want to do, and that's kind of what you has figured has improved your life in a certain way, and I've seen that in the past with people. Nothing is wrong with that. Just make sure the plant-based protein sources you're eating, like pea proteins, things like that, are complete proteins, which some of them are. And I think pea protein is an example of one. Also, I believe tofu is another decent protein source. So there's like a handful of plant-based protein sources that are complete proteins. If you have a vegan protein shake, chances are it's a complete protein, otherwise they wouldn't release the product. And usually that's like a combination of, like pea proteins, brown rice proteins, proteins from grains, proteins from lentils, like proteins from beans, things like that. That's where all of your protein sources are going to come from. It will be harder if you're purely plant-based. It will be harder for you to hit that 1 gram per pound of body weight if you're just focused on eating plant-based. It will definitely be more difficult than eating, obviously, like an omnivore, so eating like chicken, fish, beef, whatever it is, right? So keep that in mind. But plant-based protein sources are fine as long as they contain all 9 essential amino acids, okay? Other than that, that's really it for the plant-based protein side of things.
For me, I'm always like, unless you're a vegan for, that's just your beliefs, we totally respect that. Like, we've worked with lots of vegans or vegetarians, things like that. And we always respect that and make their plan custom to them, that's fine. But I'll always recommend, animal-based proteins for sure. The meats, the Greek yogurt, everything like that.
Yeah,
is what I recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So typically those are the best sources of protein. Like I said, beef, chicken, fish, good protein shakes like whey isolate. These are going to be the highest quality proteins that you can have, or any human can have, okay? And remember, they're really dense in leucine. If you want to even do a little experiment for yourself, if you drink whey isolate shakes, if you drink whey protein, you can turn it over and it will tell you the whole amino acid profile on there. Like, you can go look at it and go look for leucine, Leucine. Go look for leucine and go see how much of it in milligrams is in 1 scoop of your protein. And you'll notice, oh, there's a lot of it in here. That's good. The best protein sources have high amounts of leucine in them. Okay, and so that's good to note as well. Yeah. If you wanted to dive into that.
Yeah. And then obviously, message Dylan, because he's a huge, I love it. He's a huge nerd on this stuff, and he's done so much research in his time. So definitely message him. He'd be happy to help you.
Absolutely.
I guess just to end it off, like, how do we hit that protein goal? So obviously, just trying to get, like Dylan said, protein in every single meal, having that high quality protein source. My go-to is always, like, if you're having 100 grams of chicken breast per meal, you can up it to like 130 to 150. That's going to get your protein intake up to hit your daily goal.
Yeah.
Obviously, prioritizing the high quality protein there. Protein shakes, protein bars. For me, I have 1 protein shake a day. It helps me get to that 120 to 150 goal. Mine is lower though. So if yours is higher, maybe you need a double scoop. You probably drink 2 to 3 shakes a day, or 1 or 2, or how many do you drink right now?
I drink 2 double shakes a day right now.
Yeah.
So even me, like, I have 4 scoops of whey isolate per day right now, which is a lot, right? But I do that because it's just for convenience sake. And then I have 3 whole food meals every day.
Yeah. And then sometimes maybe you'll have another whole food meal and then take it back on the protein shake. It kind of just depends, but
right, yeah. Like right now, for my body weight, my daily protein intake. So I eat quite a bit, obviously, for my body weight. So I have 5 eggs in the morning. There's my complete protein source right there. I think that's 30 grams of protein. I have oatmeal on the side. Oatmeal has trace proteins. So, and by the way, trace proteins matter as well. Yeah. Like, they add in that, like, if you're having a complete protein source and then you're getting extra protein from trace proteins, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, like, going back to the sandwich example I gave, if you had like a chicken sandwich where you had, like, I don't know, 150 grams of chicken breast on bread, that bread, that trace protein, it will add to the whole amount of protein you're eating, because the chicken is already a complete protein. So that synthesis, that protein synthesis in your body is already being uptaken, if that makes sense. Okay. So it's not like protein from rice or bread or potatoes are useless. It's not useless. It complements the complete protein.
Exactly. So, yeah. And so like making sure when you have snacks as well, that you're having that complete protein source. So like if you're having rice cakes, you're having tuna with it, or you're having Greek yogurt with it.
Exactly.
And then I just wanted to touch, last thing is just protein bars. Just making sure those protein bars have at least 20 grams or more of protein. For example, I really like the RX bars because they're whole food based. They have pretty good ingredients, probably the best on the market from what I've been able to find.
They're pretty good, yeah.
It's like dates, egg whites, nuts, or something like that. But you have to have 2 because they only have 12 grams of protein per one. So I need to have 2 to make sure it's over that 20 grams of protein, for example.
Right, because 20 grams of protein is the minimum amount required for your body to see that protein synthesis, okay? And so it's important to at least try to hit that number. And so if you're struggling to hit your protein, what I recommend doing, if I gave you guys a step-by-step kind of guide here to make sure that you always hit your protein, if you're really struggling, first you want to start by just including 20 to 30 grams of a high-quality protein in every meal you eat. Oops. So every meal you eat, 20 to 30 grams of a high-quality protein, okay? No matter what. And don't think of it like it's like the hardest thing on the planet, right? Just make sure you're still enjoying your meals, right? That's the key here. But make sure when you're identifying how you're going to go about making these meals, or if you're working with us, right, and we've given you certain protocols to follow, just make sure that every single meal you eat, 20 to 30 grams of a high quality protein. And so does this include having a protein shake if you're going to be snacking? Yeah. Is it a big deal though? I don't think so. If I know I'm going to be snacking one night, or, I've planned out a certain cheat meal with friends or something like that, that's something I always make sure I do, is I make sure that I hit my protein first, and then I enjoy whatever it is I'm going to enjoy, okay?
Perfect. Yeah, we just have some questions before we wrap it up here. So Bonnie asked, does it change at an age like 70 years old?
No, I wouldn't think it changes for a 70-year-old or even like an 80-year-old at all. Like, we've worked with clients in their 60s, their mid-60s, and their protein intake was just as much as someone, in their 40s and 50s. Will it be slightly less in terms of like what they can actually eat? Probably. Obviously, if like I'll use a random number here. If someone is, 70 years old or in their 60s, or they're getting to that age, where they're, maybe they're not moving as much, things like that. Maybe they're not training as much. Their body probably doesn't require as much protein, because muscle development and things like that won't be kind of front of mind, if that makes sense, not prioritized.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like, you want to still try to eat as much protein as you possibly can. So that 20 to 30 grams per meal, that still applies. 1 gram per pound of body weight, that still applies, because ultimately as you get older and older, muscle degradation it can happen quite quickly, and you want to make sure that you're holding on to that as much as you can, right? Because you don't want to get frail to the point where, I don't want to say anything specific here, but for example, a very common problem that very old people have is, slipping, falling, and breaking a bone or something, right? And then that being very difficult to recover from.
Yeah.
And so you want to, I know bones and muscle are completely different, but having that extra muscle on you, right? It might like soften the fall a little bit. It might help with certain things like that. There's been studies done that show like people that have extra muscle in their frame as they get older and older, they're actually at a lower risk for things like this, 100%. Falls, breaking bones, things like that. Because let's say I have a bunch of muscle on my leg or around my hip area and I fall, and maybe that muscle kind of helps me, or maybe it also helps me not fall. Maybe it helps me be a little bit more mobile. So is protein going to magically build a bunch of muscle when you're in your 60s and 70s? No, that's not what I'm saying here, but it will help hold on to that tissue, which is so important, because you don't want to be old and frail and kind of lose that ability
it can happen fast.
It can happen right away, yeah. So hopefully that answers that. And then Lydia says, interesting, I've had so many plans made where I don't have 1 gram per pound of body weight. It's about 30 grams less than very high carbs. Yeah, absolutely. So there are various ways to approach a protocol or whatever you're going to be eating. Is a high carb approach fine from like a performance standpoint? Yes. But from a growth standpoint and a muscle retention standpoint, I don't think so. Again, I'm going to use extreme examples here. And this is Lydia, by the way, who asked this. So Lydia, I'm going to use extreme examples here. But when you look at the bodybuilding world, okay, so you look at the best, most muscular guys on the planet, okay, I have never, and I know lots of pro bodybuilders personally, and none of them are eating under their body weight in protein or even close to that, okay? So let's say there's a 200-pound guy, okay? He's not going to be eating 170 grams of protein, okay? And anytime I've seen someone eat less than their body weight in protein, typically, they don't have that muscular density, or they're not holding on to as much muscle in a deficit as they should be. Okay, so that's something very important to know. So there are people out there who believe those studies where, oh, you don't need as much protein as you think, you need just a small amount, and that's okay. If you want, if you're working with someone and that's what they've given you, follow their protocol. Or I'm not saying don't do that, but what I am saying is, I think having more than enough protein is far better than just cutting it short. Remember earlier in this live, I talked about that thermoenergetic effect of food, TEF, right? You can go look that up. And so what that means is your body needs a certain amount of, or these macronutrients require a certain amount of energy to be digested, okay? And so what I mean by that is, if you're getting 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, your body's going to, there's like 30% of that protein is going to kind of be lost as your body's digesting it. So that's why you always want that extra amount. If you're eating 30 grams under your body weight, so let's say you're, I don't know, again, using random numbers, you're 150 pounds and someone's like, oh, you only need 120 grams of protein. Yeah, like yes and no, right? I mean, like, is that enough to probably get by in terms of being like a healthy individual? Yeah, of course. But is that enough to actually get like muscular density results? Is that enough to grow? Is that enough to retain muscle in a deficit? I don't think so. So
yeah. And then just in the other group.
Listening at work. Oh, morning. Hello, Crystal. Hello, Darla. Listening at work. Right on, Gabrielle. Hello. Lexus wants her 50 minutes of fame. Yes, constantly, every time. So she's right here. I can take her on here and show you guys.
She's
sleeping now. So, and that was on the phone. So.
That was a great one, guys. So,
thank you all for tuning in. Sorry about the mishap with the Thursday. We went to put Thursday for today. There'll be more masterclasses coming up. Yeah. And if any of you have any questions you want to ask privately or go back and forth about anything specific and want to know more, let us know. I hope I explained everything as best as I could. You can tell sometimes when I'm talking, I'm trying to explain something in the most simplistic terms possible. But yeah, I hope all of you got a lot of value from that today. Yeah. So just to wrap it all up, 1 gram per pound of body weight, as much protein as you possibly can get. Make sure they're high quality sources, okay? Remember to just don't overcomplicate this, but remember to, your body is going to use some of that protein as energy to digest, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit more of an extreme topic to discuss. So I wouldn't lose much sleep over that, but just understand that that's the reason why more protein is always going to be better. And that's about it. I got nothing else to add. So.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, have a great day. And if you have any questions, just message us or comment below and let us know if you're watching the replay.
Yeah, that's right. Have a great day, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.